All right, so let's talk about HTML and CSS. So I got a very simplistic project locally. Let me zoom it a bit. So if you have some difficulties reading my screen, hopefully it should look a bit better now. So what we got so far is it's just nothing. Yeah, welcome to the bootcamp. Some weird things that we didn't generate it by ourselves, but it's all we got so far. So today I would like to talk a bit about styling. Yeah, it's obviously not the only session will talk about UI UX, but this is definitely the first one. So first thing first, this morning we saw that the entry file for our project is this app.js component. Yeah? That's the starting point when we want to build a React application. So my question for you is, can anyone tell me, and before you answer, let me finish the question because I know that some of you are, starving, yeah, because you want to answer the question immediately. So the question is going to be, what language am I highlighting on my screen? And before you answer, I'll tell you that there are two potential answers. So one potential answer will be okay if you are applying to a junior position. However, the other answer will be only valid if you are actually applying to a senior role or senior position. So now, what are your thoughts? What programming language is that? Oh, who say that? Oh, wait, many things here. So who said, guys, who said JSX? Aaron? Okay, fantastic. Aaron said JSX. And Elijah as well, right? Elena, sorry, not Elijah. Sorry. So Aaron and Elena. Yeah. Elijah, what you said? JavaScript. Okay, so we got actually I don't know why am I spoiling what's the best answer possible. So let me write down your names somewhere. So ESX reported by Aaron and Elena and Elijah. You'll see, guys. I'm typing. I'm adding many typos when typing your name. Sorry about that. It will get better over time. So JavaScript by Elijah. Anyone else? Ah, this nice. Who was that? Who said that? Maxim. All right. So Maxim said HTML plus uh, some JS. Correct. Correct. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you, Maxim. What else, guys? Yeah. Nice. Who was that? Max, okay, cool. Give me a few days, guys. I promise by the end of the week I'll get used to your voice. Yeah. So yeah, the thing is, no one said anything stupid here. Yeah, which is fantastic as a starting point. Um, Here we got a bunch of things. First of all, if you pay attention to the extension of the file, this is a JavaScript file, guys. That's the first thing. Yeah. App.js. JS is the default extension name for JavaScript files. So that's the first thing. However, the content I'm highlighting, that's not JavaScript as such. As Maxim suggested, that's some sort of HTML. Yeah, you see, guys, not sure if you got some experience working with HTML, but if so, some of these tags will be familiar to you. We got things like divs, headers, images, paragraphs, links. Yeah, I'm not gonna explain how all the links in HTML work, how all the tags in HTML work, but this is an example about HTML code. Yeah. However, however, sorry guys, I can hear some echo once again. Let me say, don't mute yourself, guys, because then I cannot identify where the source of the noise is. Elena, I think that comes for you this time. So either you, yeah, okay, yeah, sorry about that. Once again, of course, feel free to unmute yourself at any time. Yeah, sorry about that, Elena. Yeah, so back to the code that looks like HTML. However, guys, if you know a bit of HTML, can you see anything smelly? Can you see anything that you said, hey guys, I know a bit of HTML, but that sounds a bit weird based on my understanding about HTML. The return, yeah, okay, but okay, guys, let's simplify things. Let's please focus on the highlighted lines, 10 to 25. Let's ignore all the decorators and everything surrounding that piece of code. Just looking at the markup, is there anything strange? That's correct. Was that Max? Brilliant, I got it. So Max is right. As you can see here, we are using the keyword class name. If you've learned a bit of HTML, if not, that's okay. You'll do that within the next few weeks. In HTML, we don't use the word class name. We use the word class. Yeah? So that's not HTML as such. It looks like HTML. It is very similar to HTML. However, we don't call it HTML. As Aaron first and Elena then suggested, technically speaking, this is called JSX. JSX is a fork, is a variation of HTML. It's something that looks like HTML. It is very similar to HTML. Probably 90-95% of the things you know with HTML can be applied here. However, there are some subtle yet important differences that we will see within the next weeks. Yeah. So if you are applying to a junior position and you say that this is HTML, that will be okay. I mean, that's clearly not Java or C# or PHP, yeah, for sure. However, once you want to get a role where you get some sort of leadership, you cannot say this is HTML, right? Because then the message that you will telling to your colleagues is not accurate enough. So technically speaking, this is JSX. FYI, JSX was introduced by React. In other words, it's the first time in history that we can combine HTML-ish code with JavaScript all together in one file, yeah, which is nice. I think it's a good thing because it simplifies the development journey. And that technology, firstly introduced by React, is being adopted by other libraries, which is nice. You remember this morning, I referred to Vue. So Vue.js is also adopting JSX, which is nice. It's nice because if one day in the future you decide to learn Vue, you will see that many aspects of the library were already incorporated by React. And that obviously simplifies the learning curve. Historically speaking, every new framework, every new library try to reinvent the wheel to change everything, yeah, and that was exhausting from a learning perspective. However, now these days everything tends to converge, tends to become very similar, yeah. And when talking about furniture, that could be a bad thing because everyone has the same furniture from IKEA. But when talking about coding, that's a fantastic stuff. That's fantastic because it is much easier to catch up with new stuff. All right, so that's some sort of HTML. You'll never, or hopefully you'll never refer to it again as HTML. From now on, this is JSX. And because this is JSX, let's do some testing. Imagine that I want to learn, I don't know, some sort of arts, and I want to learn painting. Yeah, I want to paint whatever, a portrait, or I want to learn how to paint stuff. So imagine that you have some strong painting abilities, and I ask you, what's the best way to start painting something? Is it better to take another piece of art that someone created and then change it, add some, take my brush and add some colors on top of it, or is it better to start from scratch and get a blank canvas and create your next masterpiece from nowhere? What do you think is better? Blank canvas, right? I mean, if you want to be the next Leonardo da Vinci, it's definitely you need to create by yourself. Yeah, of course you'll get some sort of inspiration, blah 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 blah. I'm not against these things, but but it will be very weird, guys, to start creating a new application with React with the spinning logo, with the welcome to bootcamp. I'm not even talking about the learn React link at the bottom. Yeah, so first things first, let's get rid of everything. In other words, look, I'm highlighting the header, whatever that means, I don't even care. Let's get rid of the header, and then let's display a message like welcome to the bootcamp. And now let's pay attention to the impact of that change. If I go back to my web browser, boom, you see, now I got nothing apart from the title. So I can express all my creativity in a more efficient way. You may be thinking, hey, but this title is very small. Can we actually, can we actually increase the size of the text? So now the question is back to you. Does anyone know how can I increase the size of my text using HTML? Header, H1, I love that. Yes, H1, guys. H1, that's a standard tag in HTML to, well, essentially change the size of your text. And now, as you can see, once I type H1, the title becomes much larger. Let me show you something. Generally speaking, yeah, that's fine. I could easily do ping pong between my web browser and my Visual Studio Code. Yeah, I could do that. You can do that as well. No problem at all. However, as I told you this morning, I'm not a big fan of doing ping pong between my windows. I believe that plays against my productivity because I changed something. Imagine that, for instance, I break my code. Not sure if you notice the change, but I removed the opening tag of my H1 closing tag, and now the code is wrong. You see, you got a lot of errors. If I go back to my web browser, you got errors as well. But to me, that's not convenient. So let me show you my favorite way of coding, or at least my favorite way of arranging windows. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split my VS Code window and my web browser. So I want to access both windows in parallel. How do you do that? Let me show you. So you need to do a couple of things. If you are using a Windows machine, that's easier. On Windows, you can snap applications. You can snap something on the left, and then you can snap something to the right, and then you can play around both windows side by side. If you are using a Mac, it's not that simple, unfortunately, but it's still something doable without much effort. So what you can do is you can hover the maximize button, and then you select tile window to left of a screen. I think that's a new feature, guys, in the latest Mac version, which is Mac Catalina. I don't know what the version is, but if you don't get that pop-up, there's a trick. So if you press and hold the maximize button, then you can do the same trick. You can snap something on the left, and then you can snap something to the right. Yeah, and then look, you see, now this is a much better starting point, because if I change something, you see, I don't need any ping pong anymore. I got all my relevant information side by side on the screen. Any questions so far? No? Good, easy, right? Cool, fantastic, easy. So this is about the HTML, and here, of course, you can start building. Can I zoom it a bit? Yes, I can. You can start building your content, right? So, for instance, I can add a paragraph. I hope you enjoy it, whatever. You can add some text, and of course the right hand side will reflect my changes. I'm not going to explain how to add a picture, for instance, because that's actually part of your first task at Codeflix. So that's the HTML, but what about the CSS? How can I add some styles to my application? At the moment is a bit boring, yeah? It's just black and white. So, guys, please pay attention on the left-hand side to the file explorer or file navigator, how do you want to call it. So far we've been working with a JavaScript file called app.js. Unsurprisingly, there is another file side by side called app.css. And that's pretty interesting. Yeah? You will see within the next few weeks that React is quite predictable. You don't have to know everything, of course not, but thanks to React, you'll be able to predict things before you know them. And this is a good example. If you define your HTML and your JavaScript using a app.js file, then I can suppose that I will be able to define my CSS on a file with the same name, app.css. So if I select it, first of all, look, I got so many things here, and this is once again because React by default gives you lots of things. Yeah. You remember with the HTML, I pretty much remove everything because I wanted to start from scratch. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna remove everything on my CSS. Maybe I can keep the first rule, just to because I want to align things to the center. Yeah, that's it. But everything else will be removed, and then nothing really changes from a user point of view. However, now everything looks tidy. Yeah, because the JavaScript side only some basic content, the CSS side only some basic content too. So let's play a bit with the CSS. Some general introduction about styling web applications. For instance, can anyone tell me how can I change the color of the text, all the text, to purple? Color purple, for instance, yeah. And then, well, actually, maybe purple is not the best color because it's hard to spot. Guys, give me a bright color. What's your favorite color? Red. Okay, red. Yeah, you see how it changes, guy. So we got red, we got yellow, whatever. Yeah. So that's the basics about coloring with CSS. It goes without saying that from a UX point of view, I know, guys, some of you have some sort of background in design, like some people like Lorraine. I'm sure that now your eyes will start bleeding, yeah, looking at my screen. Like having a white background with a bright yellow color on top of it is everything but convenient for the user. But anyway, that's the way it works. So there are multiple ways of defining colors in CSS. We can use plain colors, yellow, blue, red, black, white, all these things, yeah, all good. We can also have RGB colors. Yeah, RGB stands for red, green, and blue. So you can play with some numbers between 0 and 255. So when you change colors, so for instance, this is yellow. When, I'm not going to explain all the RGB color scheme, but that's pretty much the way it works. Thankfully, with VS Code, we can do something quite nice, you see. So you got this sort of interactive pop-up where you can manually play with colors and things like that. Yeah. So if you want some sort of inspiration, that may help. Does anyone know a different way of defining a color in CSS? X again, correct, brilliant. The X. So the X means hexadecimal. So that means that now you can pass 6 characters representing a color. So for instance, can anyone tell me a color in hexadecimal format? F will be white in this case, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you didn't risk much here, yeah. But yeah, that's correct. F is white. CCC some sort of gray, light gray. Then of course, the darker it gets, the No, on the other way around. Sorry, BBB gets darker, AAA gets darker. I mean, eventually, 000 will be pure black. Yeah. Um, of course, you can play with different hexadecimal colors. So this is my favorite color, light blue or cerulean to be more precise. I mean, once again, I'm not going to waste your time just talking about all the implementation details of CSS, but definitely there are multiple ways of defining colors. And what if in reality on top of changing the color of my text, I want to change the background? How do you change the color on the background of your content? Background color, fantastic. Background color. So for instance, yellow. So once you take background color yellow, boom, you see? Then your background color becomes yellow. And for instance, imagine, look, if you pay attention to the right hand side, you see that the text, I hope you enjoy it, goes until the end of the box. But is there a way, can I add some spacing between the limits of my text and the limits of my box? Padding, fantastic. Padding, for instance, 30 pixels, boom, and then you see, so now we can build something a bit nicer. And what if I want to add some borders surrounding my box? How do you do that? Border and then what? One pixel, solid, and then what? The color. Can you give me a good color, guys? Green. That's too boring. Something nicer. Which one? Lilac. Lilac. Oh, lilac. Oh, lilac. Like that? Double L? No, how's that? Lilac. Violet. All right, let's try violet. Fantastic. I like that. Violet. Yeah. I mean, the border is very small. Yeah, it's only 1 pixel. It's very thin. But if we increase it instead of 1 pixel, maybe 10. So hopefully it will become a bit more expressive, as you can see. Yeah. And now, so that's pretty much the idea with CSS. That's the way you can style your components. What if, let me change it a bit. What if I got a box? So div class name, and let me call it box1, and then let me add some title to it. Hello, box1. And what if I got another box called box2? Box2, yeah. So now let me apply the styles to box1, comma box2. Yeah, I'm not telling you this is absolutely precise, but as a starting point, you see what I've done, right? So I got 2 divs. Each div has a class name. And then, guys, you can see how can I refer to the class names with the dot. Yeah. Does anyone know how will I change my CSS if rather than having class names, I will have IDs? The hashtag, that's correct, guys. Hashtag instead of the dot. Yeah. So with 2 hashtags, I will create the same effect. We will talk in the future why hashtags are not as popular as they used to be in the 90s. Yeah, but that's a different story. Now, my question is, you see, both boxes are collapsed. Once box number 1 is over, we start painting box number 2. How can I add some space surrounding box 1 and box 2? It's margin. Fantastic. Margin. That's correct. Margin 10 pixels. Boom. You see? So now I can have a nice effect, and hopefully that will help the user to identify the boundaries of each box, visually speaking. Can I have a margin, guys? Can I have different margin across different sides of the box? Top, right, bottom, left, all these things? How do you do that? Top right. All right. All right. So I want to do that, guys. Okay. Yeah. I think the idea is right. The idea is correct. But let's be a bit more precise. I want on the right 10 pixels. On the bottom 20 pixels. On the left, 15. And what else? On top, 5. Something weird like that, yeah? So how would you do that? And let's go with 15 pixels. Was that Maxim? Ah. Maxim. Yeah, so Maxim is right. Maxim is right. Why is that? Guys, the way you read that is clockwise, starting from top. Yeah? So clockwise means the first value represents top, 5 pixels. The second value represents right side, 10 pixels. The third value represents bottom, 20 pixels. And the last value represents the left side, 15 pixels. Yeah. So hopefully you can see, visually speaking, that you got different spacing, yeah, surrounding your boxes. So we got 3 different ways of establish the boundaries of the box. That's very important, guys. That's what we call the box model. That's a classic job interview question. Do you know what the box model is? So now you know what the box model is. The box model is essentially a combination of CSS rules that establish the dimensions of a given element on the screen. And this is essentially based on 3 different CSS properties. We got the padding, we got the margin, and we got the border. So let's recap. Let me bring you an analogy or a metaphor, if you want, about the differences between the padding, the border, and the margin. So the first thing you get is the text, hello box or whatever. So imagine, guys, the text is your bed, yeah, and your bedroom. Someone is trying to join. Here is Rafa. Hey, Rafa, good to see you. So the text will be your bed in your bedroom. Yeah, it's where you sleep essentially. Then the orange area, that's the padding, and the padding is the space between your bed and your walls. Yeah, if that makes any sense. It's where you can walk, where you can, all these things. Then you got the margin, which is the violet color surrounding the box. So this violet color, that's essentially the wall itself. It's the limit of your house. Yeah, it's the wall. And finally, the margin. This is the space between your flat and your neighbor's flat. Or maybe talking about flats is not that obvious, but imagine about detached houses. Yeah, that tiny space between the 2 houses. So that will be the margin in between. That's pretty much the way the box model works. Do you have any questions so far? No, that's not that complicated, right? Let me show you something pretty nice. That's the last part of this workshop. Actually, I told you that I will remark many productivity hints. So far, you've seen how have I split my working environment into 2 applications. So I got my VS Code on the left hand side. I got my web browser on the right hand side. No problem at all. However, let me show you something. Google has a very nice tool called the DevTools. So the DevTools is a tool that comes built in with all the major web browsers today. It doesn't matter if it's Google Chrome or Safari, Firefox, or whatever. So every browser today comes with something called DevTools. And DevTools, let me show you, is something very interesting towards improving the way you write your CSS and your HTML. So let's be a bit more precise here. If anywhere on my web browser, anywhere, literally anywhere, I do right click and then I select inspect, you will see a new window, a new panel showing up somewhere. I believe by default, guys, it is presented at the bottom. So let me show you how it looks like by default. By default, it looks something like that. Yeah. So DevTools is a very powerful tool. We are not obviously going to explain all the features and functionalities, but let me introduce you some of them. So the first thing I do when I play with DevTools is I open it on the right-hand side. On the right-hand side of DevTools, you see these tiny three dots, customize and control DevTools. So if you click there, then you can change the location of the dock, the location of the panel. That's maybe a bit personal. You may not like it. I respect that. But to me, personally speaking, I did on the other way around. I love to have DevTools on the right hand side. Why? Well, because I got my source code on the left. I got my eventual user interface in the middle of my screen, more or less. And finally, I got DevTools, whatever that means. We'll see that in a minute on the right hand side. So what sort of things can we do with DevTools? We can do many things here, guys. So for instance, we can inspect the web application. So we can drill down. You see, I can navigate through the different DOM elements, through the different divs, spans, paragraphs, headings, everything. And then you see, you can interact with them. So for instance, can I remove the first box? Yes, I can. You see, if I delete it, now it doesn't exist anymore. Can I change the content? Of course I can. Instead of hello box, I can display hello, welcome, codeiers. Yeah, and you see that the content is updated in real time. Can I change my styles? Of course, background color red, which is absolutely horrible, yeah, but it works. Let me change the color back to white. That should help a bit, not much, but just a bit, yeah. I can change the font size 30 pixels. You know, essentially, you can do whatever you want with DevTools. Also, if you pay attention on the right-hand side, is that familiar to you guys? This is the box model. Exactly. That's the box model. This is what we've explained a minute ago. You see, here is where you can get a very, very good understanding about the different elements involved on the way the browser displays the highlighted box. You get the content, you get the padding, you get the border, and eventually you get the margin. And you see, as soon as you hover over any of these elements, the browser is adding some sort of overlay on top of them. Yeah. So that's the box model as you have said. And yeah, so and now my question is, I've changed few things. Yeah, I removed the first box, I changed the background color, I changed the text, I changed the font size, blah 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 blah. What happened if I refresh the page? Will my changes persist or not? And why? No, why not? Exactly. So all these changes, all these dirty changes I have introduced are only persisted in the memory of the web browser. As soon as I refresh the page, guys, let's do that. Refresh, and now boom. You see, I come back to the original version of my code. That's not a bad thing. On the other way around, that's fantastic. Why? Because I can prototype. I can play with many things. I can do whatever I want. I know that if I ruin it, if at some point I realize that what I've done doesn't make any sense, that's fine. That's fine. I just refresh the browser and then I start over. Yeah. So yeah, that's the way you can interact with DevTools. Within the next days and weeks, I'd like to show you some a bit more advanced features of DevTools, things like connecting front-end and back-end, how to inspect the traffic, the APIs, things like how to evaluate animations, how to replay animations, how to slow them down, you know, many different things. It's a very, very powerful tool. In some aspects, it doesn't work as smoothly as I would like, but you know, it's what it is. So do you have any questions so far? No? All clear? Cool. I mean, that's pretty much it for today regarding workshops. One last thing. There is a very sexy button that many people ignores when talking about DevTools. If you pay attention, on the top of the panel, the second button, it says Toggle Device Toolbar. Look what happens if I click on it. When I click on it, I'm essentially simulating a mobile device, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Look, you can select between a good range of mobile phones, some iPhones, iPads, some Android devices. And the thing is, when you click on them, essentially you can get a feeling about how your application is gonna look like when represented on these devices. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Right? However, let me tell you something. Don't get overexcited about this feature. So this emulator has nothing to do with the hardware of the device beyond what we call the viewport, beyond the screen size. So that is sort of the way of sort of emulating the iPhone X is not gonna change the hardware of your laptop, obviously. So this is only good, this is only fine when you want to check how the UI will look like. But that won't give you access to the camera of the device. That won't tell you if there is any bottleneck, if there is any animation not running as smoothly as you will want. That has nothing to do with that. Yeah. So don't get overexcited about it. It's nice. It's nice as a first line of defense towards mobile development. It's absolutely fantastic. As part of Codeflix, guys, you'll start working with mobile and responsive design on task number 4. But once you are happy, once you really like what you are building using this low fidelity emulator, it's then time to test it on a proper device, which is something that you can easily do, by the way. Look, if you open a terminal, so if you open your terminal where your server is, let me try to find it. If I get rid of the warnings, yeah, let's get rid of the logo. I don't care about it anymore. So when you get that message, guys, compile successfully, you may have noticed that there's a message underneath saying you can now view the app in the browser. And then it says local and on your network. If you guys check this URL, the one at the bottom with your smartphone, you will be able to access your Codeflix application with your web browser on your phone, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Of course, don't copy and paste my URL because this is my local URL. Yeah. As far as your laptop and your mobile device are connected to the same Wi-Fi, then you can check the application not just on your laptop but also on your smartphone by copying and pasting that URL on your device. Yeah? Anything else? Any questions? No? No? All right. So, yeah. Yep. Yes. Yeah. I'll send you. Yeah, the video of this session is immediately available now. I'll send it to you in a minute on Slack to all of you. Yes. No, to the email on Slack. On Slack, Elijah. Yep. Cool. Any other questions, guys? No. So, guys, I'm here to help you. So, if you got any difficulties in the Slack, or if you got any problems setting up your working environment, you know, feel free to drop a message on the Slack. I think personally, I will recommend you to first of all, as you've been doing so far really well, drop a message on the general channel because if I'm attending someone else, someone may come across your question, and it's a way to participate and to stay in touch all together, not just me with you individually. Yeah. So yeah, if you got any problems, just drop a message on Slack. And yeah, let's stay in touch, guys. Apart from that, yeah. That's a good. That's a good point. Let's start simple. So let's have a single channel. In the future, we'll see how this evolves. We may have, for instance, one, if we eventually create two teams next month, we may have one channel per team, so we can discuss your private stuff. But for now, let's start simple, guys. Let's just keep it in one channel. Yeah. Anything else? No? Cool. Yes, please. Now until the end of the day, please carry on with the tasks. Let me know if you have any problem. I will be here. So let me know if you have any problem. And apart from that, tomorrow we'll continue running workshops. So once again, by the end of the day, we will decide if tomorrow we run a coding activity or we move it to either Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah, it's just a matter of time. If we run it tomorrow, fine. If we don't run it tomorrow, then tomorrow we'll run a workshop. We're going to do an introduction to React and also an introduction to JavaScript. Obviously, at the beginning of the course, the workshops are very generic. But then if you check on the calendar, you'll see that within the next few days, we'll start talking about different aspects in particular of the coding journey. So, yeah, that was it from my side, guys. So thank you very much for watching. Happy coding.